Many people feel like they need to be experts or they have to achieve a certain level of success before they can share their knowledge or teach others. However, the truth is that sometimes our insights and perspectives can be valuable even if we haven't arrived yet. In case if you don't know me, my name is Denzel Mensah. I'm an ENFJ 911 life personal development and relationship coach. And today, I want to talk to y'all about the myth of the perfect teacher and why you don't really have to be an expert in order to teach what you haven't mastered yet. Let's get it. So there's a certain level of beauty that comes with beginner's mind. I remember 3 years ago, I was actually a server at Buffalo Wild Wings. If you guys remember some of my older videos, I talked a lot about my experience there. And being a server taught me a lot. I was a lot more excited about being one than probably majority of people in America would be. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself as a server. But I remember that within, I think maybe like 2 weeks in, I, as I often do, was like, hey, let me make a video about what it's like or 10 tips to being a great server. And I remember when I did make that video, my mom was pissed. She was like, Nanayaw, inti upese, yes server, pretty much in Tree, the Ghanaian language, that pretty much means that like, what, you think that you want to be a server for the rest of your life? Like, she thought that I was over here trying to like make a YouTube video on just, something that I want to become like a professional in. And I'm like, no, mama, it's just that I've learned some things while I've been here, and I just want to help other people who also get into this job. And she didn't really understand that at the time. But I went ahead and obviously did the video anyway. And since then, that video has not only gotten over 10,000 views, which I honestly was not expecting, but on top of that, it was the #1 ranked most watched video out of all of the videos that I dropped last year. And I think that's happened a few times since then. I don't know what to make of that, especially since obviously my content is more focused on concepts and, spiritual matters, or like especially that of psychology. However, from that video alone, it received not only that many views, but so many comments of people saying like, wow, this really helped me. And, just a lot of encouragement was given to people, even though I was only like 2 weeks in. And in the video, I specifically stated that like, I was about 2 weeks in, I'm a new server, and most importantly, I am not the perfect server. But these are just some things that I've learned from even just 2 weeks being in that I thought that could probably help you, either from my own experience, even though it's only been, again, 2 weeks. I'm guessing it was 2 weeks. I know it was a very insanely short amount. It wasn't 2 days, but anyway, I probably should have double checked that. Anyway, on top of that, I was watching other people. I knew what a good server was supposed to look like. And so for that reason, then I was able to watch them and I was able to learn from them. And what I was learning, even though I haven't mastered it yet, I was able to make videos or a video to teach how to actually master and become as great of a server as the people that I was watching. I also tended to do the same thing when it came to other concepts, in my mind. And I feel like not only is this like a very like higher stacked NI thing, because you kind of like zoom out of the experience and you're like learning more about like, okay, what are the lessons that I can learn from this and stuff of that nature, which like I talked about in my life coaching versus therapy video, like as an ENFJ especially, like that's kind of what I'm always doing. I'm always zooming in on my process or whatever I'm experiencing to get the nuggets from it, like as early on as I possibly can. And sometimes that could be even to the detriment, which goes for all higher intuitive types. of, trying to learn the lesson without actually having the experience full on. But in this situation, I was still having the experience and I was still gaining the insights. And it was more meant to help people so that once they do get started, then they can keep these in mind while they're still having the experience. I've seen the same thing when it comes to other areas in life. Like, for example, I was never claimed to be the perfect Christian, but I still wrote blogs and I also made YouTube videos on how to be a better Christian, or how to be the type of Christian that I believe that Jesus would have liked for us to be. I talked a lot about theology. I talked a lot about, this from my understanding and from what I view should be the model Christian. This is how we should all be aiming to be. And I am not claiming to be that myself, but these are at least the standards that I believe that are set before us. And as I'm on my journey, I want to share these insights that I've had for myself in case if they help other people. Even when it comes to mastering being the perfect partner, I had written blogs about that as well. And I was not claiming to be the perfect partner. I still do not believe myself to be that. But at the end of the day, I was hoping that even if I'm an imperfect being and I'm an imperfect partner or whatever, I at least had insights and nuggets and things that I've learned from along the journey of even having been a boyfriend and stuff like that, to help other people in case if that might even be more useful to them than to wait for the impossible things, such as me now being the perfect partner, or at least having been a partner for 50 years before I actually share that. I wonder how many times that we withhold what we've learned, when we withhold the things that we might already know, because for the simple fact that we haven't mastered it yet, then we are now assuming that other people won't be able to actually learn from that information. They won't be able to, or they'll feel like our credentials are very low. And so they won't actually even value the insight and the information that we have to offer. If I had thought to myself I've only been a server for 2 weeks and stuff like that, I'm definitely not the master server. So let me wait until I am the master server, or until I've been serving for 2 years or whatever, 3 years maybe, before I make a video on 10 tips to being a great server. Well, then it wouldn't have helped nearly as many people as it did in that video. Now, I think that this is all going to show that we do not have to master things, or we do not always have to master things before we become a teacher of it. Now, that doesn't mean that there are not situations where we should probably withhold from trying to be a teacher of certain topics before we start sharing whatever we share, because it could actually misguide people. It could get them into trouble. If you are not necessarily a brain surgeon, but you want to put out something on how to conduct brain surgery, even though you haven't really actually been in the experience of dealing with somebody's brain and all of that for a good amount of time, then maybe you really probably should abstain from actually doing that. But when it comes to other things, then I feel like you'll be able to actually discern when that is actually a good method or a good course of going about. And speaking of course, I think another good example could even be the driver's test. I know that when it comes to the DMV, the DDS, whatever you would like to call it, there are people who have driven cars for years. They've been driving ever since they were 15, 14, 13, however young. But because they've been driving for so long and they are probably the experts at driving, you put them behind one of those tests, those courses at the DMV or the motor vehicle place that you might actually be thinking of, and you'll eventually see how they have forgotten so many of the things, so many of the basic things, like, oh, what does this road sign mean? And how fast can you be going in a lane that's like this? And what is the percentage of alcohol that somebody could have? All of these SI details that a person who is new to driving might actually know because they've been studying, even though they are not as experienced with the driving. So why do I bring that up? Well, it's essentially to make the point that a lot of times it's actually better to learn from somebody who is closer to where we are, rather than always having to learn from an expert or a master, because a lot of times the experts and the masters, they have already mastered whatever that they've done, that they've forgotten a lot of the basics and how to teach it. Another example could even be our own parents. We all have parents who, they've lived as long as they've lived, and then they had us, and then now that we've gone to school, sure, they were able to help us with like kindergarten work and everything like that. But then you get to 5th, 6th, 7th grade or so, and then you start giving them algebra, and they're looking at it, scratching their head, and they're like, oh man, like they've changed math. When did they do that? And it's like, okay, clearly you might have a master's degree and you might be good at this and all of that, but you can't help me, a 5th grader, with my math. Wow. But then you can go to somebody who's either in 6th or 7th grade who might not even have their GED. They might have even graduated from high school or whatever, but yet they know the math that you just did because they had just done it. And so they would actually be even a better help to you, to being able to teach you how to actually get through the same exact math that they had also gotten through just a couple years before. And that goes to show that, once again, you do not always have to be a master or an expert before you're able to offer your insight to other people. Honestly, I think that one of the biggest things that we should keep in mind if we are doing this, if we are offering our insight to other people, is to make sure that we are being transparent with where we are in our journey. Let people know that, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm not the perfect partner. I'm not the perfect math teacher. I'm not the perfect server, whatever it might be. In fact, I'm actually quite new to this. But I've been paying attention to these things, and this is kind of the insight and the information that's helped me, and hopefully it might be able to help you as well. And I feel like once people know that, okay, this is where you're at in your journey, sure, there might be some people who are like, well, you're new to this, so I'm not going to actually listen to you, and that's fine. But there's also going to be other people who they want your help because they know that it's fresh for you. And so they know that since you just recently got through this, well, now maybe you can help me. There's a difference between someone who just, had a pregnancy like a year before, and now you're having the pregnancy. And so it's like, oh, I'm going to go to that friend who was just pregnant last year. How did you get through the morning sickness? How did you get through this? How did you get through that? Versus somebody who's probably had 3 children, and they might still be helpful. They probably are an expert at being pregnant, but they probably had those 3 children years ago. And then on top of that, they have not really, the children are grown, and they really haven't been thinking about their pregnancy in such a long time. So then kind of like our parents who haven't thought about 5th grade math in such a long time, they might be like, yeah, so you see, I think I did this, or I think I did that. I feel like even a recent example for me, I have a friend who, if you guys have probably already noticed, I got my ears pierced recently this month. And once I finally did, I had to keep these studs in and everything like that. I got to keep them disinfected, all of that. And not to be gory, but this one had actually gotten pushed in my sleep a few days ago. And so then while I was in Nashville this past weekend, then I was with my friend who had gotten his ears pierced years back. And when I was trying to get him to help me to figure out what I need to do with this, no offense to him, but he was giving me all of the wrong information. And he was swearing that it was accurate. But the thing is, he just had gotten his ears pierced way long ago. And so he's telling me, oh yeah, you need to put lotion on it. When I had read that you're never supposed to put lotion on your ear piercings. Like, no, but trust me. It's like, oh yeah, no, you need to take it out. Where I had read, you're not supposed to take it out. I did end up taking it out though, before I was able to actually confirm with somebody else who had just recently did their own piercing and everything and had gone through an infection and all of that. Shout out to you. You know who you are. if you're watching this by any chance. But yeah, I reached out to them and they gave me all of this information. And then on top of that, it was in alignment with what I was looking up on Google. And so I went against what my friend was telling me. And so far, it has been great. My ear is way better than when it was in that moment. And my friend just simply was kind of out of the game. And that's kind of like what it is, you know. So once again, you don't have, like, even if you are an expert, there's things that, you know, you could become rusty at. Whereas like a newer person, it's fresh for them. And so they're able to help you like, oh, fam, I got you right now. Like just a few months ago when I had my ear infection, this is what helped me. This is what the doctor told me, whatever. In fact, that's not even an ear infection. Let me tell you this why. And then you double check, you verify, and it's like, oh, shoot, yeah, this is in alignment with everything that Google is saying. And so I think I'm going to go with that. And I think that one final thing that I'd like to say is that even for me as a life coach, as I go through life, I am the type of person that's pretty much focuses on whatever experiences that I have, and I'm trying to always glean the nuggets of wisdom from them. So that does not mean that just because I'm a life coach, that I'm certified in life coaching, that I have mastered life. In fact, the certification process that I even went through, the instructors even said it themselves, like they are not masters of life. But we are the types of people who tend to go through life and we focus on this journey of life, and we are always thinking after every experience, what's the lesson here for us? What is God trying to teach us? How can somebody else learn from my mistake? Or how can somebody else learn from my success? How can somebody else learn from whatever it is that I'm going through? And then how can I also teach that to other people? You know, how can I repackage the insights that I have to help other people in their own situations? And once again, got to keep on repeating that. I'm not an expert at life. I'm not an expert at being able to counsel in that way or whatever like that. I don't always have the perfect answer, but I've seen my answers help so many people. And I'm grateful that even though I'm not even 30 years old yet, I've been able to help clients literally as old as 60 something years old. And that's amazing, you know? And so because of that, I want y'all to start to think, what are you good at? What are you capable of actually offering the world your insight on, even if you're not necessarily an expert at it, even if you haven't mastered it yet? There's a lot of times that I put up videos, there's a lot of times that I post tweets where I'm like thinking to myself, man, this is obvious. People don't really have to know this, or they probably already know this. And then I'm surprised every single time when people are like, whoa, this is so helpful. Thank you. I did not know this. Like a lot of you guys comment on certain videos and I'm like, wow, really? And I'm not thinking to myself, you must be dumb. But rather I'm just reminded that we are all blessed with different types of common sense. So what might be very obvious to me is most likely not obvious to other people, especially those of you who understand personality type. You know this, you know, and then just in the same way, what's obvious to an ESTJ or an ISTJ is certainly not obvious to me. And so that's why we are all here to help each other. So what are the things that are obvious to you? And what are the things that you're still on the journey with that you at least have gained a little bit of insight from, and you possibly can actually help other people on that same journey? I would love for y'all to think about that, maybe offer some advice in the comments below, or make your own video about it. You know, you never know who you're going to help out. And if you're waiting to become a master at it, well, I'll say this. Be careful with that. If it's brain surgery, yes, probably wait until you're like really, really good and you've worked on 30 brains. I don't know, 10 brains? 30 and 10 are a pretty big number, but you guys get the idea. You know, like really use discernment depending on what it might be. But don't wait until you've arrived before you're like, okay, now I can teach people. Because sometimes you're actually a better teacher while you're still in the process. Just remember to continue to be transparent while you're there. And that's what I have for y'all today. So thanks for taking the time to listen. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or advice yourself, about anything in life, drop them in the comments below. You never know who's reading. You never know who actually might need exactly it is that you're talking about. I would love to learn from you. And if any of you would like profiling sessions or coaching sessions, be sure to hit me up at denzelmensah.com. I would absolutely love to work with you, offer whatever insights that I have, and we even probably learn from each other in that process. But yeah, thanks again for listening. I appreciate it, and do not forget, you matter. Done. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. It actually really helps out my channel a lot, so that more people who actually care about what I want to say can actually find me a lot more easier. Also, if you did enjoy it, then maybe you'll enjoy a lot of my other content as well, so be sure to check out some of my playlists where you'll be able to find a lot of my older videos and older content. And last but not least, if you would like any profiling sessions or coaching sessions, be sure to check out denzelmensah.com, where you'll be able to book me and you'll see the rest of my services. But thanks again, and have a great day.